Hey guys, JJ Racaza here. Very excited for the next topic. It's something that I've worked on a lot in my career. It's something that I'm kind of known for. It's going to be footwork. First thing we're going to hammer out is going to be the entry, and then we're going to talk about the exits, and then we're going to talk about a few rules on between and what to do between what step and all that stuff. And then we're going to kind of try to show you guys what drills I use to be able to get good at my footwork and how to clean it up.
Brought to you by Shooters Global. We created the advanced training system and next-gen shot timers to help you progress faster.
Going right into it, footwork, there's very many different styles and techniques and stuff like that, but I found that following an established process, something that I realized by studying other people's movement and then implementing it in myself through dry fire, seeing which gives me the least amount of red dot disturbance per se, because they're always going to move. And then what allows me to be able to combine that movement or entry into a static position or into another move it fluid position. So there are 3 steps that I'm looking for, right? As I come into position, first step is basically your toe index. It's like my initial setup where I bring my gun up on target and I start to really work on building my structure, because ultimately it's how quickly I can build my structure can I start shooting good shots on target. So the first step is what's called toe index. The second step is called post. The third leg, or the third step, is called trail leg, right? The post leg to trail leg. So it's gonna look something like this. Just footwork alone, no hands whatsoever. As I come into position, I'm gonna index my toe towards the general area of my target. Let's just say my target's in front of me. Again, it looks like this. If I'm running this way, as if my target's this side, I'm immediately gonna first step, index that target with my toe. What that does is it brings my hips, my lower half, in play to where the target needs to be, and that's half of my structure. The other half is my shoulder, and the only way to bring that together is if I present, at this point, present my gun, full extension, looking for my sights on target. All this has to happen before the position. I call it 90%, 10%. I call it at the end of my 90, the beginning of my 10. Just before the position, I index my toe to the target, simultaneously bringing my gun up to the target. And what this does is the toe index brings my hips towards the target, bringing my gun, orienting my gun towards the threat area or the target area, brings my shoulder. Now I've built my structure. At this point, the sight's gonna be kind of crappy. It's all over the place. But by the time I transition to my second step, if I do it correctly with the heel toe, post step, well, I'm gonna post up on this leg. I'm gonna transition my weight, because all of my weight's right now outside of the position. I'm gonna transition coming in here, utilizing that heel toe movement. As I strike with my gun up, at this point, my lower half and my upper body is now as one unit, right? As one unit as it moves into position. And then now I'm gonna just follow suit with my third step, which is my trail leg. I bring myself in the position, getting essentially as close to my natural shooting stance as possible, because ultimately I want to get to this point. I've done many shooting standing still like this, so I'm pretty good at this. This is my comfort zone. I don't want to end up here with a very terrible stance, right? Compromise stance, whatever opposite stance. I want to get as close to my shooting natural stance as possible. I've dry fired this many times. I want to end in this position. So again, without any talking, without the breakdown, it's going to look something like this. This is where I do things fast in my 90%. I get to the position, gun up, roll in, and step. That's how I'm going to go into position. That's a 3-step entry, right? So again, I'm going to do that again without much talking now. I'm just going to go through the steps. All right. Now that you've seen the steps, it's very important to understand this. When you're working on this particular drill, don't overthink your steps of footwork. Just remember that the most important step is to throw your gun just before the position. If you prioritize getting your gun up before you cross the position, what will happen is your lower half will also fix itself. But we have to have a plan here, because most people, some people, or a lot of the mistakes that I see is people will do this. They'll cross over into the position, right? Or even worse, they'll jump into position as they get their gun up, which disturbs, and now they're in position where they should be shooting. Instead, they're still trying to reestablish their platform, right? Coming in here with the cross step, you can see their hips is pointed this way. my gun is pointed this way, and then I have to reestablish as one unit my lower half, my upper half by the time I'm positioned. That's why I like to toe index just before the position itself. So by the time I get this all structured up and ready to go, locked in place, by the time I step into position, I should be able to shoot a couple of shots on easy targets before my final step lands into the final position. Right? You can see my natural stance is exactly where my position would be. Staying low, staying mobile, and staying stable. Give some sort of reference. I'm going to start on this side of the stick, running across with a gun and all that stuff. And then I'm going to fire one shot into the steel. It's going to look like this. Shooter ready. Stand by. All right, so that's 2.12 seconds. Again, it's going to look something like this. Shooter ready. .08 seconds. As you can see, the more I do this, the more consistent it becomes. It's just going to be around that time, 2.08, 2.12, 2.2. Watch as I try to change my footwork. My timer will also change. That one was about 0.03 second difference. And now I'm going to try to essentially put my foot, my left foot all the way in. And you can see I'm going to wait till I shoot. I see my sights. I'm going to shoot good still. I'm going to see what the timer goes. Stand by. That was 198. Again. Stand by. It's 195. 194. Ready. Stand by. Missed it. 203. Let me try it again because I missed that shot. It was too shaky. 203. I'm going to do it incorrect way again. There we go. Now I had to wait to really settle, and that's a 211. Two more incorrect way. Here we go. 216. That's me because it takes me time to settle my dot. Coming into position like that, I'm going to try to work that footwork, be a little bit smoother, but still incorrectly. That was as best as I could do it, and I even slipped and slid a little bit. 1.94 in the correct way, 211 incorrect way. And 211 was me really trying to make it work. The gun, there was just so much excess movement to the red dot, which most people won't mind 0.2 difference, but man, that's gonna add up to every single time I enter the position incorrectly. So that's why crossing the stick with the rear leg, right, as opposed to a toe indexing just before the step, establishing it, even though it seems slower because I'm moving in essentially slow motion coming into position, it gave me a 194, 195 consistent first shot into the position, good hits on target, as opposed to the other one where I literally launched myself to try to be as smooth as I can, try to be fast, covering all 100% of movement without ever slowing down and just coming to this position and trying to shoot as fast as I could. So you can see there, that's me doing it. Imagine if it's someone that hasn't really worked on their technique yet in terms of footwork, whatever, that time difference would be even greater. So that's why we create a process to follow, because we know the results are going to happen naturally if you follow the process. By following a certain process, I can repeat this over and over, which gives me a more consistent performance all the way across. All right, so that's the entry part right there, and that's why to sum it all up, I want you to remember, get your gun up before the position. That's so important to reestablish your sights and your grip on target. Then also locking in your structure before you come into position. And then now just transferring from a toe index into post, into trail. And depending on how good your sights are or how good this entry is, once in a while, you'll be able to shoot shots on the way in, boom, before this final foot comes in. On easier targets, sometimes even that control target, that steel, that mini steel, sometimes if you're doing it correctly, you can literally fire depending on where your sights are at that point. So there's a whole lot of benefits to it. I'm not saying that don't ever do this, because there are situations that you do that. A lot of that would be like alternate shooting positions, barricade. I'm trying to go in a certain specific position coming in, right? Stepping into the box, I gotta shoot to the left side. There's other times that you actually have to do that. However, if you're clear, wide open in field courses as you're running in position, the 3-step entry is gonna be completely dominant over any other technique in there. And I only came up with 3-step entry because someone asked me, what's the most minimal steps you could take before coming from a full sprint? Can I start shooting and be operational behind my gun? And so a couple of rules were defined, and this is how we came up with. All right, so now guys, what we see here is in the drills app, you can really see the difference here. And although when I did it right, 2.05, 211, 210, 216, whatever, the hit factor may not show as much of a difference in terms of graph, but you can see the two where I missed the target, because there's only one shot on plate, how significantly dropped the hit factor on there. Obviously, hit factor calculates your points per second, and so there's not much gap between when you're doing 0.2 seconds, but you can see here, the first 3 were correct, and you can see how it naturally going up and up and up, and my average time on that was 212 to 195 and 194. It got better and better. The next 4 was actually, or the next 5 was the incorrect one, and you can see my hit factor went from 256, 257 to a 0.0 and a 2.3, and then another 2.3, and the last one was a 2.5 because that one I pushed a little bit and it was really risky. So you can see my average time also went from 195 to 194. The incorrect way, 203, 206, 211 was when I finally hit it. 216 I finally hit it, and then the 2 second, that was me trying to push it and then try and still hit it, but I took a little bit more of a chance on there. It seems like if I don't do the correct footwork, I work a lot harder to get my hits, and I feel like it's better because I got away with it. But really, essentially, if I just make my shooting smooth and easy, I'm working a lot less, and targets are appearing, or sights is settling so much faster on targets. So there's a big difference again, where there's a time to be fast in the 90, and the last 10% has to be done efficiently, where I'm doing multiple actions on one, setting up my structure, as opposed to trying to set my structure all up at the same time in the final position. And that's really it right there for the entry. Now we're going to continue on with footwork. We're going to talk about the exit, the other half of our movement, right? Shooting and moving, right? So now exiting our position, there are 3 types of exit. The first type of exit is when you're flat-footed, right? Your knees are not aggressive. You're not in an athletic stance. You're sitting there like this. The first type of exit is called a drop step, right? A drop step, if I gotta go this way, I'm gonna drop my foot backwards while dropping my center of gravity to be aggressive, and then before I can explode out of the position. That is called drop stepping, right? That is only good for when you're behind barricades and my position and everything is forcing me this way. However, I have to go that way because that's where the course of fire is telling me to go. So I will have to drop step, kick outside the fault line in order for me to be able to have the right angle to push away from this position, right? So drop step. The other point in time that drop step is important is if you're told to stand straight up, no matter how I bend my knees, this is not going to be in the optimal position to get yourself out of this position. So you will have to essentially, you can drop your weight already if you want. So all you have to do is drop, step back, right? Take a negative step, or you can just sit there and relax and do it both at the same time. Not one or the other will be faster. And that's the reason for drop step, is you have to get yourself lower into an aggressive stance before I can actually explode out of this position. Exit number 2 is what's called lead foot pivot. Lead foot pivot is basically when I already have a loaded stance, I'm already in a good position, I have a good stance, I'm not sitting there feet together, it's wider, right? And I'm shooting and I'm in an athletic stance. If I have to move to the right, all I have to do is take a jab step that way. If I have to move forward, I'm going to take a jab step forward. If I have to move to the left, jab step to the left. It's a short little jab step, but basically it's taking my lead foot to take a step into it, right? Most people will call it lead foot pivot because they're going to take a step and then they're going to pivot their hips around that front leg, right? Not pivoting on their back leg, right? As they're stepping, they're not doing that. What we're told is to take a step forward and then pivoting at the same time. So now I'm in that aggressive stance, leaning forward as opposed to leaning backwards here, loading this leg up, and I'm sitting back here, not really in an aggressive stance. So lead foot pivot should be utilized if you are standing still or in a very good shooting stance already. This is also the exit that I will utilize if it's a hard target. Like let's say it's a control target, it's a steel target. This is the exit that I would like to exit, because if I decide to use the drop step, I'm losing a good 0.3 of a second, almost up to a half a second every time I drop step versus if I lead foot pivot. All right. The third type of exit is what's called leaning out of a position. Leaning means I'm essentially going to be shooting on the move, except I'm going to only move on one step, right? So there's two types of lean. While I draw, I'm going to shoot and start rolling out of the position, right? Where I post up the inner leg, right? I'm going to move this way, and you're going to see me bring this foot over. While I'm shooting, I'm falling into the position already. The other way is what's called the lead foot lean, is where I post up the inside leg or the outside leg, and then I'm going to slowly lift my leg up, pulling me away from the position, drawing and shooting at the same time while I'm falling out of the position. This particular exit or movement is not good before the buzzer, because it's called creeping, it's called cheating, whatever it is, you get procedural, you get a warning. However, once the buzzer is done and it sets you off to do whatever you need to do in field course, this particular exit is the most efficient exit that you can utilize, and this will give you a lot of time saving out there. As you can see, the biggest thing is as I move, watch my structure. I don't start to bend this way. I continue to maintain my structure as long as I can for however many how many shots I got to take. Same exact thing with the lead foot pivot. Lead foot lean. It's the same thing. My structure stays in general direction, or at least as compact as together as long as possible while I'm engaging targets. That's the big thing about this. So what that allows me to do is start exiting sooner, building energy. The longer I hold this lean, the more energy I get out of it, and I can go into a sprint, right? So those are the three types of exit. Again, review. The first type of exit is a drop step. The second type of exit is a lead foot, right? That's it. Lead foot pivot, right? The third type of exit is basically some sort of lean, whether you do a lead foot lean or you do a crossover lean, right? So those are the three types of exit. And how do you combine that? So lean, I use that exit if I see my last couple of targets is an easy attack target. And those are the ones that speed target. Those are the ones that I'm gonna start leaning out of position, because I can still maintain a decent level of accuracy on that target, but I'm being efficient by falling out of position or by starting to move and bringing me closer to the next position. Lead foot pivot is what I use if it's a lower percentage shot, if it's like a steal. I'm gonna sit there and be steady, bang, before I will actually initiate any kind of movement on that exit, all right? So now we're gonna create a drill where we're gonna combine the two worlds together, where I'm gonna shoot an attack target, and you're gonna see me exiting, and then I'm gonna land in position utilizing the three-step entry, shooting again the steal, and then we're gonna back and forth. I'm gonna shoot the steal first as my exit to showcase the lead foot pivot, and then I'm gonna enter on an attack target where you can see me still rolling in, shooting that attack target, getting good hits on target. So now I'm gonna show you guys an attack target exit where I'm gonna utilize a leaning exit, and then I'm gonna always use the three-step entry. I'm gonna come into a control target, so you're gonna see me essentially settle my feet first before breaking that shot. All right, shoot ready. Stand by. Ah! I slipped. No. Shooter ready. Stand by. All right, so that was the attack target exit, which is you saw me falling out of position, still getting my alphas. By the time I got here, got the gun up, and it's initiated a three-step entry into a hard target. So now I'm gonna reverse that. I'm gonna shoot a control target here to showcase the lead foot pivot exit, right? What you should see here is the lack of movement while I'm shooting. The other one, I had some sort of leaning out of position. This time around, there won't be much because it's a harder target. I'm just gonna shoot, and as soon as I break that shot, that's when I'm gonna create an elbow drive, and I'm gonna create this lead step moving out of position. and then I'm gonna come into an easy target. So what you're gonna see here different is the last time I came into position, stepping both feet, essentially shooting that popper. This time around, I'm gonna come in and I should be shooting both shots before this final foot even comes into the ground, because I'm coming into an easier target. So here's what it looks like. The other one was a 2.80 seconds, all alpha. This time around, let me set up my movement and position. Ready? That was a 3.06 shooting into that. You can see, because I exited with a lead foot, it is much slower than the other one as I was coming in to the position. Even though I reversed it, it's still the same targets: attack, target, control, target, ending. This time around, I went control, target, start, attack, target, ending. It was a 3.06 seconds. The other one was 2.80 seconds. Now, a lot of the reasoning behind that is because I was able to generate energy into a run. Remember I told you it's about a 0.3 second to a half a second difference, and the biggest difference there really is because I moved. If I decided to go from drop step instead of lead foot pivot, that's even gonna be slower than than lead foot pivot compared to the lean. So again, I'm gonna try to mess this up and really do the same exact drill. I'm gonna shoot one shot, but except I'm going to drop step on my exit and then entering on an easy target. So here's what it would look like if you drop step instead of lead foot pivot. So right now, 3.06, we'll see what this time is after this. That's a 3.21, getting all alphas, getting hits on target. Another 0.2 seconds plus because I drop step out of there. You saw the difference between drop step before I exited. The other one was a lead foot pivot. And the last one, I leaned out of position. And let me see if I can lean out of this target just to have a full comparison of the same exact target array. Let me see if I can lean out of the steel, see what it would look like. My first shot may be slower, but I'm gonna generate all that energy on my exit. That's a 274. So you can see the difference there. I leaned out, and just that little bit allowed me to get a whole lot more time saving. I went from a 274 up to a 3.2 something when I went from drop step to a lean. And in between that, the lead foot pivot was 3.06, which allowed me to save a little bit of time, but I didn't have that energy or momentum leading out. So again, if you can, lean as much as you can out of the position, as much as you can, avoid all the drop steps out there. The only time that's ever used, like I said, is if you're standing straight up, or if you're leaning outside barricade, then you have to drop step, and that's how to exit in that position. So the coolest thing about this is now I can review all my movement. So the first thing here, this was the lead foot exit with the attack target entry. I'm going to review that now, and I'm going to show you guys how this looks. And the movement doesn't really start until I break that shot. There's my shot break, and then immediately you can see me take that lead foot. The drop step was nowhere to be found. All I did was basically kick off out of the position, and then as I come into the center, the next position, you can see the gun going up. Sorry, I can't see with the glasses. You can't see my gun going up just before the position. I get closer to the position, that there's the toe index, there's the heel toe post, and then there's my third foot coming in position, and I fire 2 shots just before essentially my third step coming into position, because that's what we planned. I'm coming into an attack target. So that's the lead foot pivot, which gives you a 3.06 time. This next one, I know I did the drop step. The drop step, there it is. The drop step is basically the same exact thing as a lead foot pivot in terms of I'm not going to initiate any movement until after my shot. As you can see here, after my shot, I'm going to pause it here. Then I'm going to go frame by frame. The shot breaks, bang, and then immediately you see me take a drop step, kick back with my left leg, elbow drive, and then before I send myself out of the position, same exact thing. Even though it felt aggressive, it is the slowest You can see I got in position as well with the toe index, heel toe, shot, 2 shots, again, the same exact thing. And the reason why this is consistent is because I'm moving the same exact way. Now it's a 3.21 total time, and you can see the last and final one, I'm utilizing a lean out of the position, and then it allowed me to be able to shoot way faster, right? So now you can see if I pause it, what I did here is I started to initiate movement as soon as I started looking for my sights on the gun, on the target. You can see 2 hands on, I started shifting my weight in the inside, started bringing that left foot in towards the direction I'm going, was able to fire my shot, get a good hit, crossed over step, immediately started to run, and then gun up, toe index, post, trail, 2 shots, 274 was my ended overall time. So that is 3 really good videos that showcases one technique in terms of exit versus the other on the same exact drill, right? So that is footwork. To sum it all up, I hope you learned something. Ask any questions, comment any kind of feedback below, work it, practice it, and please share your success stories in the comments below.